We're going to do systemic regional blood flow. And my plan for this is to deliver blood to where it goes and then back to the heart as the blood comes off of the aorta. Okay? Comes out of the aorta. So remember, the aorta goes ascending aorta, give blood supply to something, and then bring that blood back to the heart. Aortic arch gives blood supply to something, bring it back to the heart. Descending thoracic aorta gives blood supply to something and then bring it back to the heart. And then descending abdominal aorta and all the way down to the end. So first thing is ascending aorta comes first. Blood goes up, out the aortic semilunar valve, and then up the ascending aorta. And we already did blood flow from the ascending aorta because the ascending aorta is going to give blood supply primarily to the heart. Okay, so let's look at that just by way of review. You guys have already done this, but let us highlight these because we've done them before, but let's do it again. Okay, so we are going to give blood from the ascending aorta, which is here, and blood is going up through there. It's going to go to the left coronary artery, which is right there, down the anterior interventricular artery, and then around the back with the circumflex artery. Good? And then it's going to go down the right coronary artery, which wraps all the way around, the marginal, also called the right marginal, and then you wrap around the back and then go down the posterior interventricular artery. Okay? And then it's going to go to all of the capillary beds of the heart. Okay? Then we're going to have to get it back, and we're going to get it back again through the great cardiac vein coming up, right, into the coronary sinus, which is on the back here. Okay? And then the small cardiac vein, okay, also dumps into the coronary sinus. And then the one on the back that's running with the posterior interventricular artery is the middle cardiac vein. So you've already done those. I just wanted to do a tiny little review of those. Okay, so, okay. So now let's go the other branches. We're going to go aortic arch and talk about the three major branches from the aortic arch. Let's look at it a couple of different ways. Okay, first off, the aortic arch is right here. You can see it, okay, right here. And you can see it here as well. And in most people, there are definitely some variations in all of this in humans. The three branches are in order of the order that they get blood. The first one is the brachiocephalic artery, also sometimes called the brachiocephalic trunk. Then the right common carotid, the brachiocephalic, then the left common carotid, and the left subclavian. So let's look at those a little more closely. So here's the aortic arch here. Brachiocephalic artery, also called brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, and the left subclavian. These are all, of course, systemic arteries. Now, the thing that I want to tell you is why there is a brachiocephalic on the right side and there isn't one on the left side. Well, if you look at it, in the vast majority of us, the aorta arches left. So it's already over off on the left side, so I can give rise from the aortic arch directly to the left common carotid, which is going to deliver most of the blood supply to my head, and then the left subclavian. So those are usually directly arched off of the aortic arch, and they're going to the left side. But if you notice, since the aorta arches left, you have to jog back over to the right side to get to the right side of the head and the right arm. So the brachiocephalic trunk is about jogging back over to the right side, and then the brachiocephalic trunk is going to give rise to the right subclavian artery. That's going to go to the right side of the head mostly, and then the right common carotid artery that goes to the right side of the head mostly, and then the right subclavian, which goes to the right arm mostly. Okay, so that's why you have an extra artery in the right side when you're doing traces that you don't have on the left side when you're doing traces to the head and the arm. Okay, so after you get into the common carotids or the subclavians, regardless of how you got there, the flow is parallel, left and right side. It doesn't change again on the left and the right side. So the only thing you need to remember is if I'm going over to the right side of the head or the right arm, I have one extra artery on my way there. Okay? All right. But once you get in there, it's going to be kind of the same. So now the next thing that we're going to do is the arterial blood supply to and from the head. So let's go arterial blood supply to and from the head. All right, so the arterial blood supply to and from the head is going to be primarily, not exclusively, through the common carotid arteries. We'll pick up a little bit more blood from there in just a second, or from another vessel in just a second. So stick with me, and we're going to do this kind of the same way. Maybe I'll use this narrower highlighter. Okay, so let us go either common carotid artery. After we get there, it's going to do most of the blood supply to the head. So let's see how this works. Enter full screen. Okay, same thing that we did before. And let's do a narrower pixel. Okay, so this one is showing the right side. So I have to do this brachiocephalic artery, right? And so blood will be going up the brachiocephalic artery. Let me change that so it's a little brighter. Let's do orange. Let's see how orange looks. Okay. Yeah, that's a little brighter. Okay. So I'm going to go up the brachiocephalic artery, and then I'm going to try to deliver blood supply to the head. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go into this guy, which is the common carotid artery. That's here. Okay, common carotid artery. As you know, vessels are called common when they will split in just a moment. And then the common carotid will give rise to two vessels. Now these look really confusing unless you follow where they go. The external carotid artery is this guy right here. But if I follow it up, the external carotid artery, where it's going to end up is on the outside of the head. Okay? The external carotid artery goes up and goes to the outside of the head. And if I follow the internal carotid artery, where is that one going to go? That one is going to go to the inside of the head, and it's going to go through the carotid canal. So you see it dive internally. And then you don't really see where it goes unless, of course, you start looking at blood flow to the brain. So that is the first of that part. And then, hold on just a second. Make sure I don't miss any that are in your notes. Okay, so we did internal and external carotid artery. The internal carotid arteries are really important because the internal carotid arteries collectively, the left and the right ones, deliver 75% of the blood supply to the brain. But there is another branch that isn't off of the common carotids, but it still is going to be important for giving blood supply to the brain. And I've kind of told you that it exists before, so let me show you that one as well. And that one is the vertebral artery. So let me show you the vertebral artery. The vertebral artery is right here. The vertebral artery is going off of this branch right here, and this branch is the subclavian. So regardless of how you got to the subclavian, whether the subclavian was directly off of the aorta like it is on the left side, or whether the subclavian was after the brachiocephalic branch like it is on the right side, this vessel right here that is running up the transverse foramina of the cervical vertebra, that one is the vertebral artery. So you see the vertebral artery running right up there. Okay, so that's vertebral artery. The left and right vertebral arteries together deliver the other 25% of the blood supply to the brain. So those are going to go through the cervical vertebra, and they are going to enter the brain really through the foramen magnum. And then they're going to help to form what we call the circle of Willis. So let me show you the circle of Willis. Okay. If I can get out of this image. How do I get out of it? Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's look at the circle of Willis real quick. All right, so please look, notice what we're doing. We've got this internal carotid artery that's going to go up the carotid canal. And then we've got the vertebral arteries that are actually going to go up, and it looks like it's going back here, but it doesn't. It actually dives and then goes up the foramen magnum. And then those collectively are going to form what we call the cerebral arterial circle, or the circle of Willis. So look at this picture with me for just a second. Okay, so if we're looking at a ventral view of the brain, here we go. The two internal carotid arteries came up the carotid canal, and then they come in right by the pituitary gland. These are the two vertebral arteries that came up the transverse foramina of the cervical vertebra, and then they arched anterior to the medulla oblongata, and they're going to come up anterior to the medulla oblongata, and then they are going to come together into like the cleavage of the pons to form the basilar artery. And then why is this important? This is important because this gives a really fantastic example of collateral circulation. So what would happen in the brain if I damaged this vessel? Do I just lose the whole right temporal lobe? No, because the blood can actually come around that way and get there, okay? If I lose a vessel here, I've got another way of getting it. This arterial circle allows for redundant circulation and is actually the reason that our brain survives things that it otherwise would not, myself included. And I'll tell you guys about how I busted one of my vertebral arteries when we're in class. Okay, so that's called the cerebral arterial circle, or the circle of Willis. So basically 75% of the blood supply to the brain is through these two vessels, the internal carotid arteries. 25% is through these two vessels collectively. And this is a cool image where you can actually see them. So there's the brachiocephalic artery. This is all the arteries. This guy right here diving inside the head are the two common carotids, and this one that you can see going up the back, those are the vertebral arteries, which is a really cool picture. Okay, so now let's do the venous drainage of the head. So we got blood to the capillaries of the brain, and now we have to get it back from the capillaries of the brain. So now what it's going to do is it's going to go through all of these vessels, arteries, right? And it's going to go through all of these arteries, and then I'm going to go to capillary beds, both inside and outside the head. And then I'm going to have to get it back. How I'm going to get it back is through vessels that some of whom you've already learned, and that is these guys right here. These are the dural venous sinuses. Yes, you learned them before, and the dural venous sinuses are responsible not just for draining cerebrospinal fluid from the brain, which is how you learned them before, but also for draining blood from the brain after you have removed oxygen and gas that you need, oxygen and nutrients that you need from it. And so this is the superior sagittal sinus and the inferior sagittal sinus, the straight sinus, transverse sinus, all going into the sigmoid sinus. And then importantly, where those are all going to gather, all of the sinuses that were inside the head are going to gather to dump into this big vessel right here, which is called the internal jugular vein. The internal jugular vein is going to drain left and right, going to drain the vast majority of blood from the inside of the head. So let's look at it here. So you see the internal jugular vein goes through the jugular foramen. Here's the internal jugular vein right here. You can always find it from just find it from going inside the head, from inside the head. So it's draining blood from the inside of the brain. We are also going to pick up a little bit of blood from the vertebral vein, and the vertebral vein is going to dump into the subclavian. So those two, it's going to dump into there and dump into there. So and then the external jugular vein is going to drain blood. Do you see it right here? From the outside of the head, okay, into the subclavian vein. And so I've got external jugular vein going and dumping into the subclavian vein. Vertebral veins going and dumping into the subclavian veins. All of the sinuses are going to dump into the internal jugular vein. And then the internal jugular vein is going to dump here as well. When, and this is important, you have picked all of the blood up from the arm, subclavian, these two parts, okay, we'll come back and talk about the arm in just a minute. But once you have got all of it from the arm and all of it from the head, which is usually right after the internal jugular vein dumps in, then it is going to be called the brachiocephalic vein. okay, because it took brachio, arm, and cephalic. When all of that is gathered up together, then it's the brachiocephalic vein. And then the brachiocephalic veins, two of them are going to unite to form the superior vena cava. So let me show you that as well. So this one isn't showing it in as much detail, but we can look at it. Okay, so let's look at this in a little bit more detail. Okay, so this is an oversimplification. You can't see the vertebral veins, but this would be the external jugular vein draining the outside of the head. This would be the internal jugular vein draining the inside of the head. This right here is the subclavian. When all of those come together, it becomes the brachiocephalic vein. Same thing on this side. It's just the brachiocephalic vein is a little longer on the left side because the superior vena cava is more to the right side. So again, external jugular vein, okay, internal jugular vein, yeah, subclavian, gather up everything from the head and the arm, and then you are in the brachiocephalic. Unite the two brachiocephalics, and then that's how you form the superior vena cava, okay? So that is blood supply to and from the head, okay?